And I've got a room full here at Velma Jackson High School in Camden, Mississippi, and we're recording this for our friends at Ridgeland High School and Germantown High School,
Nice.
also part of Madison County Schools here in the Madison County, Mississippi area. We have
Exciting.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and we have taken a brief look at your website, arringtonsolutions.com. And we also looked at your YouTube channel, The Accounting Struggle. Saw some of the stuff you did, saw some of your most recent posts. And we also taught, this is a personal finance class. I have 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And we are getting into banking and saving and how that works for you. And I know that's what you kind of want to talk about. So I'll let you, you're the expert, so I'll let you take it away.
Sure. So do you want me to start by sharing my screen? I can share, I have like a couple of slides, nothing fancy.
Whatever you want to do.
Sure. I'll just share my screen if I can. You would think I have it figured out by now, but still a struggle. I think it is this screen. Okay. Yes, that is what I want to share. And is that showing?
It is. I see it. CPA from around the way.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. I can't see you all, but I know you're there. I think you're there.
Yep, I can see you.
So I am Courtney Arrington. Like the post says, I am the CPA from around the way. And the reason I came up with that is because I'm literally just an everyday girl from like somebody that you could live next door to. So I started doing accounting professionally in 2015, and I graduated from college with my accounting degree in 2016. And then in 2019, I became a licensed CPA. So I live here in Virginia, and I do own a virtual accounting practice. It's called Arrington Solutions. So that's the site you were just looking at. So today I just want to talk a little bit about like my background and my career and different careers you can have, but also really just the importance of personal finance. Personal finance has been a huge part of my life and my journey, and accounting just came second. So I'll just go ahead and start. So first of all, the thing that I want to talk about with my background and my upbringing is that no one really taught me about personal finance. Unfortunately, growing up, I grew up very, very poor. Like free lunch, all the like real poor, for real poor, not like, oh, we only had one car. We didn't have a car. We had to walk. So I grew up really poor, and I just knew that personally, I wanted to do whatever was better than what I saw my parents. I wanted to have money to do the things that I needed to do and the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to keep the lights on, keep the house heated, all of that stuff. So I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do financially growing up. I just knew that when I became an adult, I would be responsible with my money, and I would make sure that I don't end up, repeating the cycle of being poor. So being poor has taught me so much, and it has really forced me to be a hard worker. I started working when I was in high school. I got my first job at, of course, McDonald's. And I worked at McDonald's all throughout high school. And then, of course, I had a number of jobs after that. But right when I graduated high school, I did not go to college. I was someone who felt like I'm 18. I know enough about the world. I just did 12 years of high school. Of school. There's no way I'm going to do more school. Like that does not sound appealing to me at all. So I'm going to go to work because I need a job, because I need to make money. That was my mindset. So in 2006, I know that was a long time ago. But in 2006, when I graduated from high school, I went straight to work. And the first job that I got when I was 18 years old was at a local credit union. So I worked for Virginia Credit Union. And I'm so glad that I worked there right out of high school, because it taught me the importance of like banking. I didn't really have a bank account growing up. I would do like one-off things like hair and stuff and make money in cash and just keep it on me. I didn't really understand the importance of I didn't even know how to write a check. So when I was working at the credit union as a teller, I was understanding like how to save money, how to have different accounts for different things. And it just really helped me to be in that mindset. And it was going great. I was making what I thought was good money because I was 18. And then in 2008, like the financial market crashed. This was probably way before your time, but if you ask your parents about it, they will be able to tell you all about it. And at that time, I was like, okay, I need to go to school and get a degree so that I can have the opportunity to have a better job. And so I enrolled at a college online. And unfortunately, the school that I enrolled in, I was taking up fashion, and I went there for a couple of years. It was going fine, but it ended up like just the school just kind of disappeared. They don't exist anymore. They closed down. It was one of those for-profit universities that you see the commercials for. So I decided to just enroll at a local college. And because I live in Virginia, one of the schools that was local to me was Virginia Commonwealth University. So if you've heard of VCU, if
In
you like
Richmond,
basketball,
home of
what's
the
that?
Rams, home of the Rams, Richmond, Virginia.
Yes. So if you heard of, I mean, if you follow basketball, I know you know about VCU. We made it to the Final Four at one point. I think I was going there then, actually, and I didn't even make it to the game, but whatever. Either way, it is a big school here in Richmond, Virginia. So I wanted to go to a college. At that point, I had been scarred from my other college experience. I wanted to make sure I went to like what I consider to be a real school. I didn't do the whole like HBCU thing just because at that point I wasn't going to get the college experience anyway. I lived at home. I had a mortgage at that time. I was like 24 years old. I did college way later than everybody else. I wasn't living on campus. I wasn't going to parties. I was past that stage in my life. So I just decided to go to school just for the education. If you have the opportunity to go to a school that you have a family history with, or you want to see more representation, or you want to go to a HBCU, I wholeheartedly support that. I just went to the school that was up the street. So that's what I did. And so when I got there, I still didn't know what I wanted my major to be, but I decided to just kind of take general business studies up. And I took my first accounting class and I was like, wow, this is really, really important stuff. No one ever made it seem like accounting was interesting. If you see accountants on TV, they're like always boring old men who are bald in the middle, who are just like not fun. They just have stacks of paper on their desk and they're not interesting people. But in real life, that's not what accounting is like. And not all accountants do taxes. There's so much more to it. So I will talk a little bit about the different careers you can have in accounting later in the presentation, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. I was a non-traditional student, and it made me take school seriously because, number one, I was grown at that point. I was 24 years old when I started, and I was paying for it myself. This was not scholarship money. This was not my parents. I had my own student loans for this. So I knew to take it very seriously. I had time to mature. So if you're thinking like, maybe I'm not ready to go to school, I don't know what I want to go for, I think it's okay to give it some time, but don't take off the time just because. I mean, I think it's okay if you take a non-traditional path. However, that was just my journey. So I don't recommend it or not recommend it.
In Mississippi, believe it or not, we actually have a great community college system.
Oh, that's good. And I feel like more people should go to community college. Number one, at least for the first 2 years, community college is usually less expensive. The first couple of years, you're taking the same studies either way.
And we have 2 HBCU community colleges.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that you should absolutely look into those. It does not matter to me going to a big name school or like what are those Ivy League schools? All that stuff sounds good, but in the grand scheme of things, no one's going to care where you went to school once It's all said and done.
Absolutely.
They just want to know, can you do the job? And so you want to go to a school where you can get your education and it not cost you an arm and a leg. So that's my opinion on that. So I do want to talk a little bit about some personal finance basics. Some of the things that I learned kind of growing up that I thought were key, that I still continue to just use in some resources. And then I don't know how much of this you've already learned or how much you've already taught them, but I want to talk about like some of the key things. And one of them, the first one is, has anybody heard of Dave Ramsey?
Yes.
So I really like Dave Ramsey, but I didn't find out about him until later in life. He is very extreme sometimes. But I do think overall, I learned a lot from listening to his podcast and watching his YouTube videos. And he has a practical approach on finance. But one of the main things that he teaches is to always have an emergency savings. So I think that it's very important once you are out of high school and you enter adulthood, the bills are just going to hit you like a ton of bricks. They're just going to come out of nowhere. And people are going to expect you to start paying for stuff yourself if you're not already doing that. I mean, people might be giving you money for gas, for your car, or your insurance and your cell phone now, but at some point you're going to get cut off and you're going to have to pay these things yourself, right? So having an emergency savings is super important. That should be the first thing you plan on doing as soon as you can. And while you're young, it's easy to save money, but when you don't have bills. So I would suggest having at least $1,000 saved up in an emergency savings that you do not touch. You never plan to touch it. It's literally just there in case you need it. So, and you will know what an emergency is. An emergency is not like, oh my God, these Yeezys are coming out tomorrow and I need the money for them. That's not an emergency. An emergency is like, I need a tire for my car and I don't have any money in my bank account.
Yeah.
So having an emergency savings is very important. The other thing that's really important is life insurance. I got a life insurance policy when I was 18 years old. I also took one out on he's my husband now, but he was just my boyfriend at the time. But I took one out on him as well. And life insurance is very young. I mean, when you're very young, it's inexpensive. The older you get and you start to accumulate health issues, then it becomes more expensive. But the reason I stress life insurance is because so many times we see people who unfortunately they die unexpectedly and nobody has any money to bury them, so they'll start a GoFundMe page. I mean, do you really want people to be asking for donations when you die? They're already sad, it's already stressful. There's so many things they have to worry about. The last thing you want is for your family not to be able to at least give you a proper burial. So buying a life insurance policy will help. You don't have to have a huge life insurance policy, but I will tell you there are companies that will sell you $100,000 of a policy for like as little as $30 a month. So I definitely recommend looking into it. One company that I recommend is Bestow Insurance, and I have some links in the last slide that I'll share with you just so you can go back to reference those. But life insurance is not something you want to wait to get. You want to get it as soon as you can, as soon as you turn 18. That's definitely something I recommend. Health insurance, obviously, stay on your parents as long as you can until they kick you out. I think you can go up until like age 24. And then when you start a job, definitely, if you're going into the workforce and your employer offers health insurance, please take advantage of it. It is so
in Mississippi, it's 25. And
25.
we just
When
had
I was,
we just had a project on benefits provided by employers.
see, that's awesome. 25, that's awesome that you can stay on their insurance that long. I had no idea how much health insurance cost until I quit my full-time job and started working for myself. And now I'm like, oh my God, I have to pay $415 every month for insurance. It's so expensive. So take advantage of the time you have when it's inexpensive. That is something that people don't talk enough about when it comes to personal finance. Make sure you have life insurance and health insurance. So to get that out the way, because that sometimes is where, if you have a lot of medical bills, that can hurt your credit if you're not paying those. Now, credit can be a little bit of a controversial topic. Some people will say, don't get credit. It's the worst thing ever. It's terrible. It's bad. Just stay away from it altogether. Personally, when I was growing up, because we were poor and we had bad credit, we could not get things. Like, we just couldn't get things. And I knew that when I was 18, I was like, well, I don't make a lot of money, so I am kind of poor still, but I want to at least have good credit so that I could get things if I need something. And I don't mean like buying, new clothes or shoes. I meant like if I needed to purchase furniture for my house, or if I needed to buy a new car, something like that. So what I did when I was 18 years old to establish credit, good credit, is the first thing I did was I got a secured credit card. A secured credit card means that whatever money you give the bank, you give them $500 and they put it into an account and they lock that account so you can't take it out. And then they give you a $500 credit card. and you pay on it. Every time you use it, you pay it off. Every time you use it, you pay it off. And that way you're establishing credit, but they still have your money just in case you decide you're not going to pay them. That's the only credit card I recommend getting at a young age. Now, when you turn 18, as soon as you go into your favorite stores, they're going to say, oh, would you like to try and save 10% on this? Or, oh, would you like to? No.
Never.
It is always, you should
Never.
always say no.
Always a scam.
Say no. It's a trap. I swear to you, it is a trap. You should not take advantage of those store credit cards. Do not do it. You will regret it.
They take advantage of you. You're not taking advantage of anything.
Yeah, they definitely know that because you're young, they're going to say, oh, well, no one's had a conversation with them yet. I can get them. And when I used to work for Old Navy, I was not even 18. I wasn't even old enough to get a credit card myself, but I was selling them to people, and they would intentionally make me sell them to people who were younger because they knew that those people probably didn't know any better. And I opened up a bunch of cards for people, and you know, the bill comes, you forget you even paid it, you've moved, you're away at college now. You don't know you have a bill. It hurts your credit. It's just a disaster. Just do not do it. It's not worth it. And I think another thing that we didn't have this when I was growing up, but those things where you can pay in 4 payments, like Sezzle or Afterpay, all of that stuff, they're on your favorite websites. That is another trap. It's not that it hurts your credit. It's just that it takes up all your money. If you keep buying everything on credit and you keep paying in 4, every time you get paid, $50 is coming out your account. $150 is coming out your account. You can't save. You can't get anywhere because you're spending all your money. So rule of thumb is if you can't buy it right now with the cash you have, don't buy it. Save up, and then when you can afford to buy it, that's when you should buy it, because the things that you really need credit for will be your house and maybe even a car. Other than that, you really shouldn't be buying stuff on credit. Absolutely. And you don't want your credit to be messed up or overextended by the time you actually need to take advantage of it. So hopefully, I'm sure you've already drilled this into them, but I'm just another voice to be like, don't do this.
Yeah, you're saying the same stuff we've done some presentations on.
Oh, good. Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit was, what does a CPA do? I feel like I am always getting that question. People hear accounting and they think math. They're like, oh, well, I'm not good at math, or, oh, you do taxes. Can you do my taxes? CPAs are certified public accountants. So we are licensed by our state, just like a nurse or a doctor or an attorney would be licensed by their state. We're licensed by our state to practice accounting. And that means that we have a wide range of experience in accounting. So we can do all different types of accounting, but people pick certain areas they want to practice on. So just like there are some attorneys who are only criminal attorneys, they can't help you with, you know, if you get in a car accident, that's not their thing. That's the same thing with accounting. I choose to focus on taxes, but not all CPAs do taxes. Some of them will tell you, I don't want anything to do with that. That sounds terrible. It's boring. Personally, I do offer taxes, and taxes is something that is always going to be around. It's always been around. It's something that every person has had to deal with. As soon as you get a job and you do a W-2 and you start to earn money, you'll know you have to do a tax return. If nothing else, you probably know that at the beginning of the year, maybe your family gets a refund, and maybe they get that stimulus check or something like that. All of that has to do with taxes. So that is something that I do as a CPA, and I also help with monthly money management. So if a business, like with a lot of my clients, they are small business owners. So I help them every month look at how their business is doing, if their business is spending too much money, if they're making too much money and they're going to owe a lot in taxes. We talk about the plan for that. And I just help them keep on track with what they're spending in their business so that they can grow, so that they can hire new people, expand, open, more locations, all of that. But there are also careers in auditing. Auditing is, you've probably heard of a tax audit, which is a different type of audit, but auditing is when someone comes in and they basically look at what you're saying you did in your business, and they're looking at the math and the numbers to see if that's true. And if it's overall pretty accurate, then they say, okay, good, it's pretty accurate. These statements look fair. And they do this mainly for public companies, so that if I want to invest money in Coca-Cola, I can feel comfortable looking at Coca-Cola's financial statements and saying, oh, this seems like a pretty safe company to invest my money in. Auditors are responsible for making sure that happens. Now, forensic accounting is an accounting type that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. It's not like science. You're not in a lab. You don't wear a white coat. It's not,
Yeah,
it's not like that.
a weird name for it because it has nothing to do.
Yeah, it makes it sound very like CSI.
Yeah.
But forensic accounting is very cool. So basically, forensic accounting is kind of like auditing, but it's more particular. So they're looking specifically for fraud, or they're looking for some type of, to detect some type of they're looking to detect stuff that isn't going to be obvious. So one thing, a forensic accounting story I have is, okay, I can't think of the singer. I feel like he's from the Beatles. But either way, this is a very famous singer, Paul McCartney, that's his name. So Paul McCartney was divorcing his wife, and in a divorce settlement, he said that he was worth X amount of money, and he wanted to only pay her a certain amount of money. So she hired a forensic accountant. That forensic accountant came in and looked at Paul's financials. They looked at all his banking records, and they determined that he was worth more money than he was saying. He said, oh no, I can't afford to pay her all of this alimony. And the forensic accountant came in and said, yes, you can. And so that's what a forensic accountant does. They look beyond what you're giving them, and they look at all the different things. So if you've seen the movie The Accountant, that minus the killing, that is a forensic accountant, someone who's looking at all the little details. So if you're someone who's very detail oriented, you like to investigate, you don't take things for face value, this might be a good career for you. And then of course you can be a CFO. A CFO is just like someone who is overall in a company, they're the person who's responsible for all the financials. So a career in finance or a career in accounting can take you to the CFO level, where you're basically the person, again, if we use Coca-Cola as an example, they're the person who's responsible for all of the financials and saying what the company does financially. So there's so many different things you can do with a career in accounting. And I've spoken to students before, and they're like, that all sounds great, but how much money am I gonna make? They don't care about any other details. They're just like, okay, cute. What about the money? So that is gonna depend on what you end up doing. The more specialized you are in accounting, the more money you can make. When I first graduated from college, my first job out of college, I was making, and this is in Virginia, so it's different than Mississippi, but I was making $52,000 a year. That was my first job out of accounting. And that's pretty good, especially when you're in your early 20s. You've never had a job, you just did like an internship before, and you're just ready to hit the ground running. But as you continue working, your money goes up. Your experience goes up, your expertise goes up, you pick a field of specialty and you focus on that, and you'll make more and more and more and more. So it's definitely a lot of money to be made, but in accounting, one thing I will tell you is you will work hard. You will work a lot of long hours. I worked so many hours when I first started. My first job, when I worked in public accounting, I was working 65 hours every single week. And that was during tax season. It was so busy. I would go to work at 7 in the morning. I would leave around 6:30 in the afternoon, come home, have dinner, and then go back online. I would log back in and be logged in until 12 o'clock at night. So I definitely worked a lot. I put in a lot of work and a lot of years. And so that is why I felt comfortable to start my own business. How are we doing good on time?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, because I feel like we're in the age now where nobody wants to work for anyone, and everybody wants to have their own job, their own careers, their own business. And I think that that's super admirable. I love that. I think that's amazing. But I do think that it's so important to learn first. I worked from 2015, my first internship, and then I worked all the way till this year, 2021. I've worked for a company. And prior to that, I've been working since I was like 15. So I've learned how to work, how to take orders from people, how to manage my time, how to report to other people, how to do customer service. I've learned all of those basics first. And then I've taken what I've learned now after several years of working for someone. Now I work and own my own company. I don't recommend going straight into owning your own company because I feel like you're going to make a lot of expensive mistakes. So it's nothing wrong with having a job. A lot of people are like, I don't want to work for somebody. I just want to do my own thing. And I understand that. But when you have a job, you have an employer, there are people who you can ask questions, you can learn from. There are people who know more than you. They've been doing it longer than you. They can teach you the smart way to do things. And you get a lot of benefits because you get to network with other professionals in your industry. You get to meet people who can give you opportunities down the line. And you get cheap health insurance. Your health insurance is really cheap. You get 401k, you get retirement, you get all of these benefits that you won't necessarily have if you go straight into owning your own company. So my biggest recommendation to people is learn the ropes first. Don't be afraid to learn and to put in the groundwork so that you can get the foundation and run a successful business when it's time.
Yeah, and I actually have an entrepreneurship class, so I'd love to have you speak in next year. And that's one thing we've also talked about. It's okay to be an employee and an entrepreneur and not go all in at once. And you hear several entrepreneurs say, and I've heard both sides of it, but a lot of them say, learn the business first, then jump into it. It's important, and especially from the financial side. You know, if you're not a financial expert, it's going to be tough to manage your business's account if you don't have that experience.
Absolutely. And I did that actually. I personally worked in my business and I worked my job before I started to go out on my own. I couldn't tell if my business would be successful right away. So I kept my job. And by having a job, I was able to have better clients. I wasn't desperate for money. I'm not like, oh, if they don't sign up for this service, I'm going to starve, because I still had my job. And so I was able to be more selective in who I work with. I was able to take my time in building out my website and doing research, getting a coach. I was able to pay for those things because I had a job. And so I waited until my business was making money consistently every single month. And I knew that it wasn't just because it's tax season. Like, I can do this all throughout the year. I'll be fine. I'll be comfortable. And I can build up a savings in case, things don't work out. I did all of that first, and then I decided to step out.
Yeah, put your toe up in the deep end.
Yeah, I started my business in 2020, or actually late 2019. Wow. So I really kept it for a while first, tested it out, figured out my systems, and then I dived into it. And I love being an entrepreneur because that's my spirit, that's my personality. But there are things that I miss about having a traditional job. I don't have coworkers right now. My dog is the only person that's here with me. And sometimes she doesn't even come sit in the office with me. She just stays downstairs all day. So, I don't have that benefit of having like things that we do, like fun Christmas parties and stuff like that. I don't have that because I'm not working at a traditional job. So there are things about the job that I definitely miss. And again, if you're someone who's thinking like, oh, I can't take orders from people, I can't report to jobs, I can't work 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, I just can't do that. If you have issues with that, then you'll definitely have issues with entrepreneurship. Absolutely. Because you still have to report to people, you still have deadlines, and the worst thing is nobody's checking in to make sure you do it except for the people who are paying you. So it's even harder. You have to be very disciplined. So, but it is a beautiful thing. Entrepreneurship is great. And I mean, I highly recommend it when the time is right. I just think that it's something that people should build towards.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I want to talk about before I get to some of the students' questions, I know you still got a few more slides, is, you worked in the banking industry.
I did.
And you said you grew up not really exposed to that. Now, we are, even though we're a great school district, we're close to Jackson, we are a rural community, and we are a majority Black community. So why is it so important for these communities to be comfortable using the bank and the credit unions?
Well, number one, having your money, for me personally, the reason I opened my first bank account was because I couldn't have cash in the house. When you live with people, so I lived in the house with an addict. And if you leave your cash there, that money is going to keep disappearing and you're going to get tired of that real fast. So I opened a bank account so I could have somewhere safe to store my money. But the other thing is, if you are spending, if you're keeping cash on you, sometimes it's harder to keep track of how you're spending your money. And also you want to establish a relationship with your bank. If you start and you open up a checking account or a savings account or both, and you have that for a while, when you are ready to buy your first car, especially with a credit union, you've already established, they can see you have a history of making deposits. They see you're not overdrawing your account. You're very responsible with your money. They're a little bit more comfortable lending you money. So you're establishing yourself with the bank, and you should get comfortable now at this age while you're still in school with going into the bank, transacting your own business, making sure it's in your name, if that's something that your guardians will allow you to do. Some people have, accounts that are set up for them by their parents, but if you're a little bit more financially independent and you're making your own money, you want to make sure that you're comfortable reading your bank statements, making sure nothing is looking strange, nothing went in or nothing extra is coming out. Just learning how to have your own accounts that you're responsible for now will help you further down the line.
Yeah, you just
But it's also, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You just gave about 6 answers to the assignment they have coming up. So I hope they were paying attention because that was really good.
Okay, good. Yeah, when I my first car loan came, the first thing that I got was my secure credit card, like I said, when I worked at the credit union. And then I was able to get a car. I needed to get a car because the car that I bought cash in high school just was falling apart on me. So I had to get a car, a good one, reliable, and I needed to take out a loan for that. But because I had a job with them, they could see all the deposits were going in regularly, so they could trust that I was going to make those payments on time, and they were able to give me a better rate. So I had a low interest rate on my car loan. And then from there, when you go to get a house, they're going to want to see all of this stuff established. If you just have Cash App, if you just have Zelle, the banks can't see what type of person you are financially. They don't really know if they can trust you. So they're going to charge you more than they would charge someone else.
Absolutely.
So it's important to build and establish a relationship with your banks and your local credit unions, as well as, building your credit.
Well, yeah, that's good stuff. And like I said, our next big project is on banking, and that's you're giving answers left and right. So that's why we're recording this. I can go back and watch it. But yeah, that's good stuff.
Good. So, so one of the things I wanted to talk about before we go to questions, just really quickly, is how I work with my clients. Just really quickly, like for taxes, I do help my clients to prepare their tax returns, but I don't just do their taxes and then I don't see them again until next year. I work with people who typically would owe money. So they make a lot of money, they have a business, and we talk about tax planning, things they can do to lower their taxes. So you see people like Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, or the guy who owns Tesla, Elon Musk, I think. Yeah, Elon Musk. You see people like that, and it's like, oh, they didn't pay any taxes. And you're like, what? How did they not pay taxes? They make so much money. My uncle doesn't even make that much money. He pays taxes. So it's because they have CPAs who do tax strategies for them. And there's certain things that they plan all throughout the year so that they don't end up having to pay a big tax bill at the end of the year. So right now I have a client.
Calendar year.
Yes, exactly. So right now I have a client who's very young. She's 19 years old. She owns a business, but she makes a lot of money in her business. She just hit the ground running. She owns a company, and it's like a membership business. So the more members she has, the more money she makes in her business. And right now she's on track to do $1 million this year. 19 years old. So because she's going to make $1 million this year, she is going to have to pay a lot of money in taxes. So I've been working with her and a financial planner to try and figure out ways that we can make that bill come down some, because she doesn't want to pay, $200,000 in taxes. So we want to come up with a plan for her so that she can put money into a retirement. She can spend a little bit more money in her business, other things that she can set up so that she doesn't end up having to pay so much in taxes. So that's some of the stuff that I do with my tax clients. And then same thing, my monthly accounting clients, I meet with them every month and tell them how their business is doing. Because it's one thing to be making money, but if you're not looking at the big picture, you don't know if you're actually getting anywhere, because you might be spending just as much as you make. And then the last thing that I do is consulting with my clients. So I have some people who maybe they're just planning like a big event. So they might be planning a big event in their business, and maybe I don't help them every month, but if they're planning a big event for the business, they want to talk about how to set a budget for that event, how much should they sell the tickets for, what are all the costs that they should charge the vendors, that kind of thing. So those are the types of things we'll talk about. And so that's pretty much how I work with my clients. Again, I work with social media influencers, so people who make money on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of those people. Believe it or not, they do make money. I mean, y'all probably know that because y'all are part of their generation.
We have a former student that went through our entrepreneurship program. She's also 19, started a business on Instagram selling eyelashes, and she's making a killing right now.
That's amazing. I love stories like that. That's like my favorite type of thing. So I have one client who is on Instagram, and he is pretty famous. I mean, I obviously can't say who he is, but he has a very big following, and it happened so fast. It happened within like 1 year. He grew this really big platform. He has this huge following, but he gets paid a lot through sponsorships. So companies will pay him to do an ad, or they will pay him to help sell a product and things like that. So he's making a lot of money, and he needs someone to help him track that. How much is he spending versus what he's paying, because he's hopping on flights and he has to go to all these different places. So he is still spending money too, and he wants to know, like, bottom line, how am I doing? And so that's how I work with those clients one-on-one. And so I also listed out some resources here. One bank that you can look into if you wanted to do like virtual banking, if you don't have rides to go to the bank and you don't have a local bank close to you, you can open up an account at Ally Bank once you are 18, of course. That is something that you can open up completely online. And then have you already talked to them about the Every Dollar app?
No, but there's also another one that's actually founded in Mississippi by Sheena Allen, Capway, that does the same thing.
Capway. Well, okay.
She's actually spoken here before, but she's in New York now. Like, she just left Mississippi behind, but Capway is very similar to the Ally Bank and Every Dollar as well.
Yeah, I highly recommend looking into what is local to you, because the closer you are and the more you have that relationship, again, the benefits are better. So it's okay to have different accounts for different things. I personally feel like you should have one account just for bills. Hopefully y'all don't have bills yet, but when the time comes, I had bills when I was in high school. I had to pay my own cell phone bill, had to pay my own car insurance, but fortunately, that might not be everyone's story. But once you start having bills that you're responsible for, I would have an account where you put the money in every month just for those bills. And then all of your personal money is separate. So money where you want to just get your hair done or buy new clothes, that's just kept in a separate account. And then having another account just for savings.
Yeah.
Because if you mix it all together, you're going to look at that balance. You're going to be like, I got money. But some of it might already be predestined for something in particular, like a bill or like emergency savings. So you want to keep these things separate. Another tip or hack is if you open up an account, a savings account, and you don't have an ATM card to it, you don't have a debit card to it, you don't have online access to it, and it's far away in another town, then it's going to be a pain to go get that money. So you're not as tempted to just keep taking the money out. So it might help if you're like, oh, it's so hard to say no, I can't get away from it. Maybe go and open an account that's far away and don't get a debit card, don't get a credit card, or any type of ATM card to it, so you can't take the money out. That's one way to do it. So that way you're saving that money.
Awesome. I never thought about that. That's a great tip. And before I get to their questions, I do have one that you talked briefly about. This is how important is do you think is the representation in the financial industry to continue to grow? Because like I said, we have 3 state HBCUs here in Mississippi. We have 2 HBCU community colleges and 3 private HBCUs. So, but like you said, that is not always the best route. But you did talk about, in the financial industry, you had the mindset it was all a bunch of old white men. So obviously, how important are those roles for females and the minorities?
It's so important. The representation, even though there's been progress since from back in the day, it has not been a lot of progress. I mean, I can tell you personally, at the first firm that I worked for, I was the only Black girl, and it was a big firm. It was a lot of people who worked there, probably about 80 people in our office. And I mean, there were people who were young. There were people who were, right around the same age as me, but I was the only person who looked like me in that role. And I mean, of course, there might have been a handful of people who were considered still minorities, but as far as like being a Black woman, I was the only one. And it was kind of lonely. I mean, I talk about that on my YouTube channel, how that experience is. It is different when you go to work every single day and there are people who just certain things about you they just don't understand or can't relate to. So it is so important. Sometimes people they use that as a way to be deterred from entering the field. I think that should encourage you to enter the field because we are out here. There are so many of us out here, but we're not represented at big firms a lot. If you want to go work for a big public accounting firm like Ernst & Young or PwC or one of these big name companies, or even like working in the finance industry, going to work for Goldman Sachs or New York Life or something like that, you will find that a lot of times your peers don't necessarily look like you. So it's hard for us to get into higher roles and to bring in more people who look like us because there aren't enough of us. So I definitely think that the industry underrepresents us. It's still a very low representation. I want to say out of all the CPAs in the United States, Black people make up maybe 1% of that number. So it's an alarming statistic, but I feel like that's why it's so important for me to continuously be putting out content and showing people and showing up in these spaces, because I want people to know that it's not an impossible field. Accounting is difficult, and it's something just like, studying to be a doctor or studying to be an attorney. Yeah, it's difficult. It's definitely something that requires a lot of dedication and commitment, but it's not impossible. If somebody like me, I am not someone who has strong math skills. A lot of people think you have to be good at math. I don't have strong math skills. I was not a straight A student in high school. I was a very average student, but when I got to college, I took it very, very seriously. And I went to office hours. I met with my professors on the side and said, hey, look, I still don't understand this. I know you went over it in class, but I still don't get it. I met with other groups. I was in accounting groups. I did everything that I could to make sure that I actually was understanding it, because once you get out of college, even though the school you go to does not matter so much, your GPA does.
Yep, absolutely.
Your GPA does. And some people will tell you for some careers, they're like, oh, well, as long as you have your degree, they're not going to ask you what your GPA is. Accounting is not like that. You have to put it on your resume. They want to know what is your GPA. They want to know that you at least have a 3.0. You had to at least be a B student, and that's on the low end, just to compete, just for them to call you. So it is something that you have to take seriously. Getting my CPA license was the hardest thing I ever had to do. The exam is 4 parts, and so you should only take it 4 times. I took it 12 times.
Wow.
Because I kept failing it, because it was so hard. But I did not give up, because I knew that there were not a lot of people who look like me, and I started this. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to represent for the other young Black women, because there are not a lot of Black women. There are not a lot of women in general in accounting and finance. I felt like it was important and it was personal to me. So that's why I call myself the CPA from around the way. I really am just an everyday girl. I am not someone who has parents who have, do this. They do not. My parents did not finish high school. So wow. I'm a first generation grad from college. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. So it is definitely possible. Like, you literally can do this stuff. You just have to be committed to it. And I think that you should wait until you're at a place in your life where you know you're going to really focus and put the attention into it that you need to.
That's incredible. I do have some great questions here. I won't be able to get to all of them, but I got some good ones.
Okay.
This is Cheyenne Harvey, and she's a sophomore. And she asked, what's the easiest way to make sure you keep good credit?
The easiest way to make sure you keep good credit is to not take on unnecessary debt. So that means, again, when you go into, your favorite department store and they say, we can help you save 10% today. You say, no, thank you.
Every time.
Every single time. And the other thing is, just because you have something available on credit, your question to yourself should always be, can I afford to pay for this right now with the money that's in my account, and do it comfortably? If the answer is no, then don't buy it, because you might have a credit card that has $1,000 spending limit on it, and it's Christmas and you just feel like, oh, I'm gonna just spend $1,000. I'll pay it off. I have a few months. You don't know what happens the next month, where your car goes out and now you don't have the money, or you lose your job and now you don't have the money. And now you're stuck with these credit cards and all this debt taking up all your money, and you don't have the money to pay things off. So I would say, don't take on unnecessary debt. Do not buy things that you cannot afford to pay for right then and there. And if you are buying something on credit, make sure you pay it off in full. So your bill might come and they might say you only have to pay $25 as your minimum. But if you charge $500, pay $500. Pay the full amount. If you can't afford to do that, you shouldn't be buying it.
Absolutely.
You just shouldn't. You should wait. Don't pay in four. If you're on Pretty Little Things website and they say you could split this into 4 payments, don't do it.
Every time.
That's the way you lose all your money, is all your money is going out the door on payments. So don't do that.
This is Deborah Pierce, and she's a senior, and she asked, is there a quote that motivates you, and what is it?
Yes. So there's a lot of quotes that motivate me, but one of them is actually from a rap song by Nipsey Hussle. And I believe, what is the name of this song? It's a really old song. It's from like one of his old mixtapes. But the song's lyrics are like, regardless what you into, regardless what you've been through, I feel like I have to tell you, you have something to contribute. And I used to think, because when I first got into accounting, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is so hard. Like, I'm not going to be successful at this. But instead of being discouraged, I knew that there were other people who looked like me, who've been through similar things, who felt like they couldn't do the things. So I started the accounting channel that I have, the accounting struggle. And I felt like I have something to contribute, even if I'm not the smartest person in my office, even if I'm not the person with the highest GPA, and I didn't go to like UVA or Virginia Tech or one of these other big schools. I went to VCU and it is a big school, but in Virginia, there's so many colleges, right? So I felt like, even though that's the case, I still have something to contribute. And despite my upbringing and despite everything that I've been through personally, I know that the things that I'm going to put in this world are still valuable to somebody. So I'm still going to tell the world my story, and somebody is going to be blessed by it.
That's awesome. This is Anastasia Brown, and she's a junior, and she asked, did you ever feel like giving up when you started the process of owning your own business?
Yes. Yes, I did. So the thing is, when you own your own business, you still make mistakes. When you work at a job and you make a mistake, it doesn't seem like as big of a deal, because you're like, okay, well, if I make a mistake, my manager will catch it when they're looking over my work. But it's no big deal. Nobody's going to die. But when you own your own business, that's it. You're the last person to look at this work. And so I made a mistake on a client's return, and they ended up getting a notice from the IRS that was like, hey, you messed up on this, blah, blah, blah. And I realized I'm not the first person this happened to. This happened to a lot of people. It's an honest mistake. What I did was I let the client know, hey, this was an honest mistake I made. It was an oversight. And I just volunteered and gave her money back that she paid me. And it saved the relationship. She was very appreciative. She's still going to work with me going forward. But in the moment when that first happened, I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this. See, this is why I should just work for somebody. Who do I think I am, running my own business? You know, I had all of that happen in that moment, but then I realized it's a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. If I have 100 returns to look over and it's, you know, the last minute, I am going to make mistakes sometimes. So it's all about learning from those mistakes and trying to implement things that will help you avoid them going forward, but just own up to it and learn from it and move on. Just don't stay there.
Yeah. This is Miles Woodard, and he's also a junior. And I know, and this is a good question because I found you through a hashtag. So obviously you do a lot of things to set yourself apart, but he's asking, what do you think is the biggest secret to being a great accountant?
Wow. I mean, I don't know that there's a secret to being a great accountant. I think that you have to, some skills you have to be very detail oriented. You can't miss fine details. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of research. You have to be very detail oriented and very sharp in that way. And I think never stop learning, because the laws are always changing. So that's always changing your job. Like me, I do taxes. The tax laws change every year. There wasn't a stimulus payment until 2020 for the pandemic. So
And they vary from state to state. That's not it's always not.
it varies. Everything in every state is different. And because I'm virtual, I help clients in all different states. So you just never stop learning, never stop looking for opportunities to learn, excuse me, and be very very detail oriented. You have to really check all the fine details and really have good analytical skills, and I think that will help as far as being a good accountant.
And we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're really busy over there in Virginia, but just one last question before we go.
Sure.
Everybody that's watching now is Black in America, and you're not much
Hey
older.
y'all.
And a lot of the ones that are going to watch later are. And even though we're in Mississippi, you're in Virginia, you have, just hearing your story, I didn't know any of that. That's an unbelievable inspiration. We have a great, hardworking community here with a lot of great people. But we're, like I said, we're rural and we're a majority Black community. So what can they do? They're going to face the same obstacles you faced in life, whether it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. And I've always said that.
Right.
So even if they don't want to go into the financial field, even if they don't want to go to college, what can they do to become as successful as somebody like you has become?
I think that finding your why. For me, I've always been driven. I didn't work this hard just because it sounds good. I literally, like people say, I hustle because I have to. I work this hard because it is, if I don't do it, nobody's coming to save me. So find your why and remember that and never let go of that, because there will be times where you're like, I can't do this. This is too hard. This is beyond me. Nobody understands. Nobody in my family gets it. They haven't been through this. I cannot do this. Whether it's college, whether it's starting your own business, whatever it is, being disciplined, and remembering your why. I'm doing this because I want my children's children to never know what it is to be hungry, or to have to be cold, or to have to turn the faucet on with pliers. I want them to never experience that. And so that is what's always driven me, is I'm going to be successful because I want to live a comfortable life. If I need something, I can just go buy it. I can just go pay for it. It's not even about being rich and being able to flex on other people. It's just about being able to be comfortable and have my needs met. So if I don't do it, what else am I going to do? That was always the question. Whenever I wanted to give up, it's just like, okay, and then what? And then what? What's my alternative? I can't ask anybody else for money. Nobody's coming to save me. It's me, and that's it. So it's really you versus you. You can do whatever you want. Whatever you think. If you think you can't do it, then you're right. If you think you can do it, then you're right. So just be careful what you tell yourself. And just remember your why and don't give up. Refuse to give up.
Wow, what a great story. It's so inspirational. And, like I said, we'll definitely have you for our entrepreneurship group in the spring. And while I'm thinking about it, I am about to send you here when I get off here. I'm going to send you the info. There's another virtual CFO that in based in New Jersey. I'm going to send you her information. And she's
okay.
Yeah, it's somebody that you definitely need to connect with. But thank you
Okay,
so much for
awesome.
joining us. ArringtonSolutions.com for those of you watching later, or social
Yes.
media stuff is on there. Great social media follow. Make sure you get some of her nuggets that she puts out there. And again, Courtney, we thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Best of luck to everybody watching.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.